write this. You'll have total, carte blanche on what you like, what you don't like, if you want to change anything. But you'll be blown away. They're good. They're good. And again, just we'll talk for 40 minutes, and it'll be like a page and a half. Essence is the word of print. So let's start out by introducing yourself. So kind of years in business, market, size of the company. Just walk us through who you are.
Yeah, so Peter McKenzie, the company name is Rincon Property Management. We're in Southern California in a town called Ventura, which is right on the coast between Santa Barbara and Los Angeles. We technically have been in business since 2014. However, it was more of a hobby in the very beginning, so didn't take it seriously probably for, I don't know, 3 or 4 years. We only manage residential. Typically, not really doing any big multifamily. Most of our stuff is, I think the largest complex we manage is 12, but most of them are accidental landlords, so they own one. I think our average unit mix is 1.25. So you can see that it's mainly people who own one house, and we do all of the things. We do all of the NARPM things, all the best practices. We belong to all the groups, rent scale, profit coach, all the things that good companies are supposed to do, we do, which is awesome.
I appreciate you looping us into that. All the good things that good companies should do. But I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah.
So it sounds like that's one thing I want to hit on it right away, because I've seen you do this. You're a big believer in community. I think when you called me and you said, "Hey, I'm thinking about rent scale," it's because all of the cool kids that I know are doing that as well. Like you seem to really like use your network and be like, you're leaning on people that have done it before you. I've watched you do that over and over again. So tell me what you're.
So I'm not the smartest guy in the room at all, probably far from it. But what I'm really good at is seeing what other people are doing that works and copying them. And I mean, I'm good at reading book. I'm good at reading a business book and like executing the ideas and the strategies that are from the book. I don't really come up with anything original, as weird as that sounds. I wish I was like that, but just not me. It's not my strength. But I'm really good at seeing what someone else is doing and either doing it as good or maybe a little bit better. Like the execution is, one of my superpowers. And especially if you're in a market where I am, where most of my competitors aren't doing all the things you're supposed to be doing there. And then it's really easy to excel, when you're competing against people that aren't doing any of the things. So
that may actually make you the smartest person in the room, Peter, to be totally honest with you. Too many of us have great ideas and don't actually execute on them. So I love that. So I want to follow up on kind of some other things, but since you brought it up, I want to ask this question, which was on my list. What do you think are your strengths as an owner? Like, what are your strengths?
So I'm passionate about building a team and empowering people. Like in fact, we were going to our annual off-campus thing for EOS, and we were going through the delegate and elevate exercise. And in there, you obviously talk about what do you love and you're great at, what do you don't like and are good at, don't like and not good at. So on there, it's all about building the team, empowering people. I hate the day-to-day. I do not like it. I don't find fulfillment in it. I don't like details. Just don't. So I'm good at the opposite of that. And I also like starting businesses, which is potentially a weakness because there's a lot of dilution of your efforts that come around. But that's what I like to do. Like when I feel most alive is when I'm creating something, creating some value where it doesn't exist, and then handing it off to people who have the chops to actually do the work. Because if I had to do all the day-to-day, it wouldn't be good. So
I love you see that. I want to lean into that for just a quick sec, Peter, because I'm fascinated by this, because you're simultaneously saying, I'm good at executing. I will follow through. Like, show me the idea and I'll make it happen. But you're also saying, I don't want to do the day-to-day. And I think that an entrepreneur hearing this was going to be like, okay, what is it? Do I need to follow through? Do I, you know what I mean? So like, help me square that up, because that was a really great dichotomy you just dropped on.
Yeah, so executing could easily, the whole who, not how concept. Like you can, as a company, execute at a really high level. But me personally, I don't like the day-to-day. But I'm aware enough to find somebody that does do the day-to-day and is good at it. And then I can, hold them accountable through KPIs and scoreboards and all the tools that we have to make it happen. But like me personally, not fulfilled by the day-to-day. Doesn't mean that it's not important in my business, and it's not like we flake on everybody and we can never follow through on anything. It just means it's not me. I don't like it myself.
So, and I want to lean into this because I think this is so important. So when you say I'm good at executing, what you mean is you're like, hey, this is a concept and I need this person or I need this process, and I'm willing to do the work. I'm willing to roll up my sleeves. I'm willing to do the work until it finally sticks in my company. So if I got a problem with some metric like rent collected or rent on time, just throwing out crazy metrics.
Good.
Like what I think I've seen from you is you'll be like, let's get this fixed, and I'm willing to stick with it until it's fixed. But then I don't want to do it anymore. I want to hand it off to somebody else. Am I getting this right? Because I think that's really
absolutely. So I think in the beginning, when I was less mature as an entrepreneur, I would stick in the day-to-day too long. Like I'd get energized by starting a management company, right? Like I had rental properties. I was an investor, but I didn't know how to run a management company. I didn't even have a real estate license, right? So I started the management company, got into the weeds, stayed way too long in the weeds doing the day-to-day. And then slowly over time figured out like, hey, I shouldn't be doing this. Then I spun off our contracting company. Didn't stay in the weeds as long, but I was still in the weeds, but much shorter period of time compared to the management company, which worked out much better. I mean, all around was a great thing. And now I'm on my third little spinoff company, and I brought with me my A player from the management company right off the bat. I go, I'm not going to mess around in the weeds any longer than I need to, but we're going to work on this as a team, and I'm going to tap out as soon as possible. I don't want people to think tap out means abdicating and just like going somewhere else. It just means I'm not going to be the guy responsible for making sure all the boxes are checked or all the tasks are done. So I don't know if that answers your question or not.
It does. And you also you hit on a nerve that I've been through as an entrepreneur. And you use the word abdicating. And so something that is pretty common in the entrepreneurial community is delegating versus abdicating. So you're saying, I got somebody, I'm bringing them along. I want to talk about people in a second, but first, I really want to focus on us as the entrepreneur. You use that word, abdicating, and I'm going to add some value there, abdicating versus delegating. What have you learned about how to employ people in what have you done right? What have you done wrong when it comes to
Oof, I don't know if we have enough time for that.
That's a big question. I totally appreciate
it. I've done a lot wrong. I'll start with that. No. Made a lot of mistakes. I think what really changed in our company when it comes to people and motivating people is when you meet them where they're at, right? Like the generation that's coming up now is a lot different than our parents' generation. Different motivators, different things that they're looking for. And the sooner I figured that out, which is not really true, right? Because I think this is a constantly evolving thing. But when I started paying more attention to what motivates people today, I started getting better performance. I started getting better buy-in. I started getting more of what every entrepreneur wants, which is like a highly functioning team that cares, that does the right thing when you're not micromanaging them, right? So I think that's a big part of it. That's what we got right. But in the flip side of that, we got a lot of things wrong before that. And one is not everybody's motivated by money, right? I think entrepreneurs are, and some people in the sales, personality profiles are, but not everybody is. So you can't just throw money at people and expect to get the results you want in general. Some you can, but not all. So if you keep trying to do that over and over again, you're just going to lose money, and they're still going to go do whatever they're going to do if they're not being, fulfilled by whatever you're asking them to do. So something like that.
No, it's great. And just specifically, we've all been let down by people, and like I'm sure you have been as well, right, Peter? And so when I talk about that, it's a big question. I totally, and I'm maybe asking more for myself than anybody reading or listening, but it's kind of like, hey, when do we move on, or when do we invest in people? Because I've seen you're a great leader. So I would love to get your thoughts on that. Like when you move on and I've just made the wrong decision, and when is it my fault and I just need to invest in this person more?
So one of the things that I am big on is like setting the expectation and like communicating it clearly over and over and over again. So like if someone is not working out in our organization, it's not a surprise. They're not going to be blindsided by me letting them go. We're going to have conversation after conversation about this is what's expected. Do you have everything you need to be able to do this? Do you need more training? Do you need more software tool? What do you need so I can support you here? And if they basically like weed themselves out. Like they know that, okay, yeah, I'm not cutting it. There's no misunderstanding between us. Like if you can't do the job, you can't have the position. Like I definitely our business is a sports team and everybody's here to pull their weight. And if they can't pull their weight, they have to go. That's a part of it for sure. Yeah, I lost the other train of the question. What was the other part?
That was it. Yeah, I'm gonna break this down into my team. You're speaking my management love language.
Okay.
If such a thing as love language of the managers, but it's like it should never be a surprise when you're let go. Like you're just saying, hey, this is what I'm expecting. You're falling short. What do you, like you said, what do you need? Do we not train you something? Are we asking for something unrealistic? I love that. I
The
feel
other, I'll add to it with this. I view my role as the owner slash leader of the company as a service role. I am here to support, not like dictate. And I think there are some people that view it the opposite of that, right? So like I'm here to make sure, Jeremy, you have everything you need to be successful. And if you don't have everything you need, that's my fault. But if I provide you everything you need and you still can't do it, that's on you and we need to part ways. But it's very much a service viewpoint that I have when it comes to leading.
I mean, we are lucky that people will spend their lives working for us. Like, I don't think enough entrepreneurs really think about that, right? Like, we are like, yes, we're always like, I'm paying you, like, I'm doing all this stuff, but like, we are actually pretty fortunate that somebody will literally be like, I'm gonna go spend all my time helping Peter run his business or build his business. Like, I just don't think enough of us think about that. That's why I was saying I love that. And I always want that. I don't want anyone to be blindsided when they're let go for any company I run. Like I want to be like, we've had so many conversations. Honestly, I mean, most people that we have to let go leave because they're just like, okay, I've had 9 conversations with Jeremy that like it's not working out. And they see the writing on the wall. Is that a fair assessment of what you're
Oh,
trying to do?
100%. And that's okay. It's also okay that it didn't work out. Like we could still keep in contact. We could still like, it doesn't mean that I think you're a bad person and you got to get out of here. It just means
Yes.
this wasn't for you at this time. Maybe in the
Yeah.
future, who knows? But like I still do a lot for the people that don't work here. Like I am invested in their success in a lot of ways. Like we didn't let a marketing person go. She had to move on for a different reason, but she just came back and did some contract work for us and it was great. But because we keep those relationships alive and that's the kind of thing is possible. So.
All right. So I'm going to dig in on that because I love this. Like, why? Like, so many people say, hey, when somebody doesn't work out, you just need to move on. Like, why do you keep investing in people? Like, why would you do that as an entrepreneur?
I mean, I think it feels like it goes down to being a good person. I mean, it's the right thing to do. Like you were saying earlier, they dedicated a lot of time to your company. They didn't have to do that. They could have done that somewhere else. And I want to be clear too. Like if we have somebody who's dishonest, not performing, other issues, like I'm probably not doing that for. But people who move on professionally, I think it's the right thing to do. And one of our culture pieces that we're trying to build at Rincon is we are trying to build a culture of personal and professional development. So we have a development group that we literally do every 2 weeks for an hour. And we're not talking about company stuff. We're talking about what's next for you. What do you need to do to get to the next level, whether it's in our company or somewhere else. And frankly, some of them, not most, maybe, I don't know, maybe half of them have different ambitions. And I feel my job is to help get them there, even though if that means they're going out the back door to somewhere else, because I mean, karma, it's going to come back. Like people want to work for a company like that. And yeah, I don't know.
All right. So I want to talk about personal and professional development because that's something near and dear to my heart. But let's let's back it up a little bit if you're okay with, obviously the
Sure.
spirit of this is letter from the future. Um,
Which we haven't
what
talked
do
about at
you,
all.
what's that?
Which we haven't talked about at all.
No, but you're giving us all the fodder for sure. So what do you feel like you have so much confidence in how you're running your business, right? Like like I'm hearing really, high level 5 things where it's like, hey, we invest in people. And if somebody doesn't work out, we do it. What did you do this all from the beginning, or was there something you've just adopted now? Like, take us back, like put us back 5 years. Was it 5 years ago? Am I right? No, it's a little more than
Oh, no,
that.
longer. Yeah, 2004, almost 10 years. 10 years. But like, I don't even count the first 3 or 4 years because it was literally a hobby at best. But no, I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't know any of this stuff. It's been a journey to learn myself, right? And I credit other people, like I said before, I copy really well, and I see and I'm aware enough to see like what's working for other people, and like we
Yeah,
have just in our industry alone, you have those companies that are like standouts, and they seem to be doing everything right, and then you have the companies that are disasters, and you clearly want to not be like those companies. So I just look around me what's going on and copy. And that sells it a little short because there's also a ton of like personal development and reading and studying and books and podcasts and all of those things. And like I was saying before, my superpower is I can absorb something and execute it. Like once I make the conscious decision, like this is a good idea, I am really good. Like I'm not one of those people that gets um paralysis by analysis. Like once I decide, I go, this is it. I know there's probably alternate ways to do the same thing, but I don't have time for that. Like I make the decision and then I cut all the other stuff out, and this is the path we go. And I think that's a leadership quality. I think people they want to follow somebody that kind of knows where they're going. But if you're going in 5 different directions because you can't make a choice, you're just gonna flounder. So
all right, so forget the letter from the future stuff that I just asked about. What you just said is really powerful. Um, I, how do you have so much confidence to commit like that a lot of people struggle with that. I think you can appreciate that.
I don't know. I had this conversation at the fire department or with a fire department colleague probably a couple years ago. And he was a smart guy, definitely had some analysis paralysis, was trying to figure out what to do. Cause I mean, the fire department's a very short career. You don't stay there in your 70s, like your body can't hold out that long. So
Yep.
everyone's like, well, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And then I was probably the anomaly in the fire service that I already had another business and rental properties and things. So some of the guys would come to me and we'd have these conversations. And this guy was kind of driving me crazy a little bit. And I eventually told him, I go, I don't care what you do. You need to do something. Pick something and do it. That's it. Like stop all the noise. Like, I mean, we're talking like analyzing all kinds of different business opportunities and rental investments and this and that. And it's like, at some point, you have to just make a decision because the reality is there's very little that's new under the sun. You can be successful in any of the things you want to focus on. Like literally, Jeremy, you could probably go open a McDonald's franchise and own 20 of them in the next 5 years. And that'd be amazing if you just picked it and focused on it. If you want
Yeah.
to do something else, pick that. Like it's so like rare that people just make a decision and go all in on it. Burn the boats behind you. Like just do it. So that guy ended up buying like a couple rental properties, and then I actually hosted another podcast with him, a fire department podcast, and he told me that story the other day. I was like, oh, I do remember that. I'll have to repeat that one.
So what did he end up doing? Did he end up doing anything? Because I think this is you
He
really.
did. So he bought a rental property in our area, which is not the easiest thing to do because it's pretty expensive here.
Yeah.
And then he moved out of his primary house, turned that into a rental, and bought a new house with a granny flat. So like now he has 2.5 rentals and he's in a new house. So
I love it. All right. So I love that you just said that because oh my gosh. Wish you could just shadow us on on the sales team for a week here at Rinscale. So many business owners. What if this? What if that? I'm thinking of doing this. Like everybody's looking for approval of their ideas, and so few people are saying that's the hill I'm taking and I'm going to charge it. Right? And it was like absolute leadership there that you just mentioned. I love it.
And honestly, it could be all of the things they're probably looking at are viable. They just have to pick it. Just do it.
All the hills are worth taking. But you can't take them all at once. You can't take hills halfway, right? So yes, like I love that you said that. Yeah, I have no desire to be running McDonald's franchises, but you're right. If somebody said to me, you have no alternative, but you need to own all the McDonald's in Boca Raton, I honestly think I would be the best
You'd crush it.
owner
You'd crush it.
all of the, like I would just do it. You know what I mean? But like I would need to like be told like there is no burn the boats, right? There is no other way. And it's just it's a great reminder, you know? They're like, hey, the only thing you can do is open car washes, and you can only open it in, you know, war-torn Ukraine. And I'd be like, all right, well, if that's all I can do, I'm gonna do it. And like I'd figure out how to do it. Like it just, you know, the most absurd thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're the one that has I think you did the bunch of presentations about the riches are in the niches or something along those lines. Yeah, same idea.
Totally. Okay, so that's an amazing lesson as leadership. So I want to back up. You said you don't take the first 10 years seriously. You're so for anybody that doesn't clear yet that's watching this, you were a firefighter, right? Fire chief, firefighter. Am I getting it right?
I was a firefighter. I retired as a fire captain.
Fire captain. Okay. And you decided to somehow buy some investment property or lease out, right? Like just kind of walk me through like how you found yourself in property management, because nobody just finds themselves in property management.
Yeah, I don't think anybody like intentionally. I have 3 daughters and I'm like thinking, are you going to take this business over? They look at me like, are you out of your mind? I don't want nothing to do with it. Anyway, but that's like no one intentionally becomes a property management entrepreneur. So I got hired at the fire department. I was 26. Before I started having kids, when all the guys were buying 4x4 trucks and motorcycles and ski boats, I was literally buying like duplexes in Indianapolis and Kansas City. I was spending probably the same amount of money, but I was buying assets. They were buying liabilities. Yeah. I made a ton of mistakes, but at least I was buying things, right? And I was obviously exposed to property management companies, and more importantly, like really bad property management companies. And I had a lot of them because I was not smart enough to like concentrate my efforts on one market. I was like in 6 markets, right? Because I didn't know what I was doing, and that's what I thought I should do, right? So I grew to kind of hate property management companies. And I had used, it all started for me with a house in my local area. And then I just by luck sold it at the peak of before the first crash, which was like in 2007 that I sold it.
Yep.
Sent the money out, and then the Great Recession happened. Dealt with a lot of bad property management companies.
Yeah.
Basically led me to go, I can do this way better than these guys. These guys suck. And that's what I did. Learned that there was a little bit more to it than that, but not really.
Did you have any properties in your local market in Ventura?
I had one of my
own. One. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I was taking away is you had all these properties in other markets, but you're like, I'll do it in my market. But you had one, but still.
I had one, but I had one. I sold it and pushed all the money out of state. But when I opened the management company, at that time, I didn't have any locally. But when I had the one, I had interacted with several of the companies locally, which was just tracked with all my other interactions on most of these companies don't do a good job. And that's like, obviously I love this industry now, but I still believe that like most of the management companies they kind of suck. And that most of them aren't really NARPM members, right? Like NARPM's like the cream of the crop.
By the way, I got to take you to some of these conferences I go to. You know, Jen and I went to, do you know Jason Hartman? Have you followed him at all? Empowered Investor?
No.
So Jen and I went to this amazing event last February, I think it was about a year ago in Scottsdale. And these people, like he's teaching people to build portfolios all over the country. Perfect clients for our clients. When Jen and I showed up and we told people that we work with property managers, the look on everyone's face was like, you're the enemy, get out of here. Like we were we were just there to learn about how people were investing in properties and doing this. And it was like, we were like the rat's nest that nobody wanted, or the snake's den, you know, whatever it is. Like, it was just unbelievable to see these people that all of our clients like you would want to meet. These are people building in portfolios all over the country, passive. And the way that they talked about property managers was not our clients. Like that was not our clients. It was the other people. So anyway, like I got to take you to one of these real estate conferences where like they're just like, oh my God, you do what? Like it's literally a bad word.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. I actually don't. So like the whole Bigger Pockets crowd, and I've had the CEO of Bigger Pockets on my podcast. I've had I feel like I got a good grasp on like the whole scene with Bigger Pockets. I think Bigger Pockets is amazing, and I like what they do for the real estate community. But there's a lot of like, I don't want to say misinformation, but they paint property management companies with a negative light, and it's not. It is warranted because there's so many bad ones, and they've earned that reputation. But it is a superpower for somebody. It's leverage, and if you get a good one, it's the best thing in the world. You get a bad one, it's the worst thing in the world. But they don't give it enough credit, and I think those communities are teaching people how to be just cheap, and cheap is really expensive when it comes to rental properties. And though that type of crowd that you're talking about, where the property managers are the enemy, they're the ones that are like going super cheap, trying to do things on their own. They don't even understand that they're screwing themselves, and they don't even see it, which is even worse, you know.
I could not agree more. That was my message was, guys, like you don't understand, like a good property manager, like a Rincon Property Management is worth 10 times what like an average property manager is. But until you experience that level of professionalism, they just don't get it. So
Yeah.
I love it. And for so many of our clients, not just you, it comes very naturally. Like you said, you were dealing with it and you're like, I can do it better than these guys. And then you meet other guys, and you meet a guy from Austin and a guy from Chicago, and they're like, here's what I do. And you're like, whoa, you know, and you go to NARPM, and then next thing you know, I mean, you're just not a guy who's just showing up and like changing the locks. You know what I mean? You're like literally providing a service, which is amazing. So scratching your own itch is the ultimate entrepreneurial journey for sure. All right. So I want to ask you about a couple more things. I want to ask you about this, Peter, because you and I have known each other a long time. So you were an early client of Renscale, definitely first 30, 40, you know, like early days. I remember meeting you. I remember the conversation, and you hadn't gone full time yet. You know, and if you want to share that journey, you were still working in the fire department, you're building your company. You know, forgive me if I'm sharing anything you don't want me to share, and I can delete this, but I believe my memory of us meeting was I need to find out how much I'm getting back from my tax return. And if it's enough, I'm going to hire Rinscale. And again, correct me if I'm wrong, but like,
Did I say that? I mean, I have a terrible memory, so I may have, but it doesn't ring a bell. But
you said something along the lines of like, I got to get my taxes done. And if I don't owe too much money, or if I'm getting a big enough return, I'm going to do this. And
okay,
then you went all
I'll
in.
take your word. I'll take your word.
Because I want to talk about risk. Like that's all I'm saying is that you literally had a conversation with me is like, I'm not sure if I can afford this, but I want to do it. To now where you have full-time salesperson, one of our favorite people in our community. I'm just watching the growth in the 4 or 5 years. Like you seem to have an appetite for risk. And so we're talking about letter from the future, and we're thinking about in the beginning, none of us need to be cavalier. We all heed the warnings of people that have made mistakes, but honestly, this is just one of the things I've seen in you is like you have an appetite for risk. I want to let you comment on that.
I don't know if it's I mean, there's definitely some appetite for risk, but I think it's more just an affinity to taking action, like, which I guess is a form of accepting risk. I'm prone to taking action. Like if I have a problem, which we were just talking about off camera, like I'm looking at a fractional CMO, like we have a leadership void in the marketing department of our company. I don't need to dwell on it for like too long. Like it's pretty clear to me. Like right now I am the marketing lead of the marketing department, and I'm not a marketing expert. It's a problem. I know it's a problem. There's only a couple ways to solve it. We need someone with that level of knowledge in the organization, whether it's full-time, fractional, whatever, it doesn't matter. I'm going to take action. So like, I think it's more of like, I can analyze a problem and come up with a solution. And that's it. And then once those two things are clear, I'm doing it. regardless, like obviously within reason, like budgets and all the other stuff, but
Yeah.
I'm not afraid to take action. I do. It is a little bit of an illness too. Like I was having this conversation with Meet Kevin. You know who Meet Kevin is?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you talked to. Oh, that's right. I saw you on his
So I
podcast.
was on his podcast,
Yep.
and we were talking about like, hey, like, what are you doing? Like, in his case, you know, you have bajillion YouTube followers, you got all these things. Like, why are you doing more? And he was asking me the same thing, and we're clearly not on the same level, him and I. But
He is, by the way, for anyone listening, one of the most influential YouTubers on real estate. So yeah, the fact that
so in the end, it was like,
great.
why do you keep doing this? And it's not about money. At some point, it becomes not about money. It's about doing something. It's about building something. It's about, I don't want to say having something to do, because there's plenty to do, but it's about creating something, building value for other people and yourself and whatnot. So, but that, because some people in my own family would be like, you're crazy. Like, you have a nice company. What are you doing? Why are you starting two more? And for me, it's like, this just feels like the right thing to do. And I like it. Like, this is fun for me. So I guess, I don't know if that danced around your risk question, but I don't know.
Well, so what you're telling me is you don't look at it as an appetite for risk. You look at it as a bias for action. And you just don't, if you hear something that you think you need to do one day, I'm going to put words in your mouth, but I've actually, like, I'll say this very confidently. You're like, well, if I'm going to do it one day, why don't I do it now? Like, I've seen you kind of say that. It's like, I know
well,
this,
or if it needs to be done,
yeah,
just do it. Like, back to the conversation, I don't remember specifically every word because I have a terrible memory, but it was clear to me that I needed your services. Like, I'm not an expert salesman. Marcy, who is the person who was doing sales, and we were trying to get her into the scale club and do all those things. She needed it. Like, it needed to be done. Like, because it was expensive, like, I could have said, too expensive, kicked it down the road another year. But what's the cost of that is we suck for another year, or we just bite the bullet, pay and level up, and then we never have that problem going forward. I'd rather pay the money, and when I recognize the value in something, just do it, make it happen, get it done. You're going to figure out the financial piece of it one way or the other, within reason, obviously.
Yeah, it is interesting. I realized that I had some bias when I showed up and I said your appetite for risk. It's a different way of looking at it. You're saying, hey, if I realize I need to do something, I need to do it. And I think that I'm faced with so many entrepreneurs that are just like, what if it doesn't work out? And you're just saying, you're not really thinking, what if it doesn't work out? You're thinking, if it needs to be done, let's get it done. And it's a great reframe. I think I even just learned something from that, right?
That might make me the dumbest guy in the room. I don't know.
Yeah. No. I was like, I'm just saying, like, wow, that's like a great reframe, you know?
So if the way this whole conversation started was like, write a letter to yourself. If I had to like sum up what the letter to myself would be, it would be something along the lines of like, build your company for what it's going to be 5 years from now or 10 years from now. And in addition to that, take all of the disciplines in the business seriously. Because I think entrepreneurs, but especially in our industry, they like hone in on operations. They're like geeked out on operations specifically, which is cool. It needs to be done, but it's not going to get you where you need to get. Like, the whole build it and they will come thing, I think is not true. I think if I would have taken marketing and sales seriously in the very beginning, our company it would not even be close to what it is now. It would be way farther down the road. And once I started taking all the disciplines seriously is when we started, making better progress and whatnot. So
All the disciplines, including not just the operational ones.
Not just the operation. So the finance piece with like good accounting and metrics on that, and kind of the stuff that Profit Coach goes on and on about. And then the marketing piece and the sales piece and the leadership piece, right? Like, how many people dedicate a bunch of time to like learning how to be a better leader? Like, in my mind, that's a discipline in the business. Like, it needs a leader. You need someone who's constantly growing and learning and turning around and pouring that into your team. Like, it's all important. And I think one of the mistakes we make is we like focus on the operations, neglect a lot of the other stuff. And that's when you like stay small and you're not, working into your full potential.
Yeah, just total sidebar. I wrestle with this, obviously, and I say wrestle with it, I mean, I talk to people. it's really funny. It is almost like a label misappropriated when you say, I need to get operations in line. Operations could mean anything, right? And so, Jordan and I talked about, like, when Jordan approached me, we talked about from the beginning, how do we operationalize sales and marketing? So I think that too many people just use the word operations as in, I answer the phone when people call, I get the rent paid. Like we just add these labels. So like, we appropriate the word operations, but like what you're talking about is, I need to operationalize sales and marketing. I need a CMO. It doesn't need to be the Peter show. I need somebody else doing it. I need to hire a BDM. These are all operations. We just don't think of it that way. And I think like you have just said, and I've discovered in my 24-year entrepreneurial journey, like everything needs to be operationalized, So I just wanted to say that, like
No, I like it. I think the other problem with people like you and I is the sooner you figure out.
I don't think there's a problem with people like you and I. Let me just say that. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
I'll include just myself. The sooner I figured out that I was not the best at pretty much anything, like that is a self-limiting belief that only you're the right person and only you can do it the right way.
Yeah.
Because it's just not true. Like there is somebody that's much better at everything in my business, and everything that I think I'm good at, there's somebody way better. And the second you can like wrap your head around that, then it's just a matter of like moving chess pieces around. Like for my current problem, I'm working on marketing. Like I'm not that guy. I already know like I'm way deficient. All I need is to put somebody in there that really knows their stuff. That's it. And then let them work their magic and the things that are easy for them. And then I move on to the next thing. But if you have this, like it's only me, you don't understand my business. You'll never understand my business because you don't operate in it. That's a lie. It's just a lie.
Amen, sister. Like I've experienced that too, and it's just like, you're never going to get my business. So I love that. So I'm going to take a quick recap. I'm sorry, a quick, return to something you said.
Sure.
Because this is really important. And I'm asking this out of pure curiosity, and I may turn this into a reel, and this may be what I want to send to all my prospects. But there's this like tension between, I'm Peter, I started my property management company because nobody can do it as good as I do. Like I'm sorry, you didn't say that. You said I can do it better than all these other people. I'm starting my company because there's a void in service level. And then you said things really got better for me when I realized I needed to operationalize sales and marketing, and I needed to do other things. And I think that so many people do start their property management company because they're just like, well, nobody is going to do it as good as I want. And then they get sucked in an infinite void of, I am going to build the best property management service ever. And they never think about it as a business. So like you just teed me up for like what every sales call I have goes through. Like, what are your thoughts on that? Like, when did you make that transition?
So I think there's a big difference. And I'm no like business expert, and I would say you probably are farther ahead of that than I am. But there's the reason you say something like, hey, no one can do this as good as me, I'm going to do it myself. The reason you say that is because you are literally in bed with the problem. Like, you know what the problem is, you're experiencing it firsthand, you understand all the nuances of the problem. The problem in this case, what bad property management looks like. So you go, I'm going to do this myself, I can do it way better. I said the same thing. And honestly, at that moment in time was true. Like I was going to do it better than the people that I was being exposed to. But when I say everyone can do something better than I am, it's, I think where you like break through and enter like the ability to scale is when you go, I have a crystal clear understanding of what the problem is, and I am going to go find somebody that's better at me solving that particular problem. I think that makes the difference. Then you're literally back to just playing chess on a board. Like, these are the reasons why property management has a bad reputation and sucks. This is what needs to be done differently. I'm just going to build this team together to not do those things and do it this way that I believe it should be done, which is different than saying, only I can figure out how to do property management good. No one else can. Like, that's crazy. That's, I think, the biggest transformation in my mind. Like, when I went from, yeah, I'm not the only one who can figure this out. Let's, start building a team and figuring it out. I don't know if that, I highly doubt that's going to be real worthy for you, but I believe that.
Well, I may have set the bar a little too high when I said that, but it's just, I feel like that's the transition that we all have to go through. Like, I get it. Like, listen, I mean, when I started Renscale, I had 3 businesses under my belt, but businesses I started before, I was definitely locked in this idea of I just know a better way to do it, and I've got to have my hands on everything, and there can be zero waste, and there can be zero other people coming in, and I can only add value if I'm doing everything down to a T without wasting a single dollar. And I've watched, like that's just not what is like, that's not how you build a company. When you build a company, you need people need to take vacations. You need redundancy. There's waste, right? So many of us start a business saying, I can do it cheaper. I can do it with zero waste. But when you really think about it, like that's the lesson I've learned is like, it's not sustainable to have zero waste. You gotta, like I said, you gotta have vacation. You gotta have redundancy. Like sometimes things are gonna get wrong. You're gonna have to refund people. And to do all those things, you gotta charge more, right? And so obviously you're in a fantastic market. I think the average rent is something like $24,000 a month. Is I right? No, I'm just kidding.
Well, we charge weekly. It's about that. Yeah, no.
Yeah, but you're in a great market, and so walk me through that. Like you have economics that I think are empowering you, right? So what's your thought on what you charge and how you sell the value to the customer?
Yeah, so we are really expensive in a market, right? Like a lot of our competitors are not doing the things we're doing: resident benefit packages, owner benefit packages, pet fees, these types of things. I don't think people care. I mean, people care about price. I don't want to say they don't care about price, but what they care about more is that they feel like they're getting something for what they're paying, and you have to deliver on that. And if you're just like every other management company who basically doesn't deliver and does a terrible job, then they don't like that either. So we are expensive. I think our last time I looked at our what's the metric? The monthly revenue per unit.
Yeah. RP.
ARP. Yeah, RP. Yeah. I think we were like close to 375, which is, I think, on the higher end of the spectrum.
Sure.
And a lot of that is because we are percentage based and our rents are so high. Like our average rent.
You were in Ventura, California, right? I joked about 24,000 a month, but you do have high rents, right?
Yeah,
I mean, it's
we
not
do,
uncommon for it to be a $5,000 rental property, right?
correct. Yeah. But in addition to that, we charge all the other things, which is incidentally is like, could be changing for California because there's some stuff going on in California related to that, which is kind of a bummer. But it's what I often tell people. I'm not really having sales calls that much anymore, but when I did, or when I do occasionally, is you want to pay a lot of money to your management company because it's going to allow them to put the staffing in place, put the best software solutions in place to be able to do this at a high level for you. If you go with the cheapest company, they're cutting things. They're hiring from the bottom of the barrel. They're going to give you terrible service, and it's just a perpetual loop. So I want the companies that I interact with to be highly profitable, because then they have the resources to do the thing, whatever the thing is that they're doing. If you're always just going for the cheapest people, you're gonna, like, your life's just gonna suck that way, right? Like, you hire the bottom of the barrel property management company, it's gonna be miserable for you. You might save like $50 a month or $100 a month, but it ain't worth it if you're miserable.
And now I've handed over an $800,000 asset to somebody who is just trying to make ends meet, right? So it's like, again, going back to risk management, I love what you just said. So I know you're not in sales, but that was perfect. It is true. I mean, imagine, I got a $1.2 million property. I'm going to hand it over to somebody. The worst thing that could ever happen to me is they go out of business 3 months later because we're not paying them enough, And now it's like you signed a lease with a tenant. There's a person in the house. I mean, I just don't think enough property managers really sell that. It's like, do you really want your property manager going out of business? Like, that would be the worst thing I could ever imagine with any of my rental properties. It's like, oh gosh, now I have a lease in this house and they're out of business. Like, that would be the worst thing ever.
Yeah.
right? But nobody thinks,
One of the things I think we suck at, and we meaning my company, but I think a lot of people in the industry too, is we don't celebrate the wins to our clients. Like we just don't. And I want to change that. Like
yeah,
we do so much, but sometimes we have trouble sharing. But one, some people don't like to brag. Like I'm not a braggy kind of a person, in general. So it's hard to go, hey, look at how amazing and bitching we are. Look what we did here. Look what we did here. But I think it's necessary to like increase the perception of value of what we're already doing in our clients' minds. So.
agreed. Yeah, and the wins are things that would just be expected. I got a new tenant. I got a lease renewal. We collected the rent on time for the 29th month in a row, right? Like these are wins, but like we don't celebrate them because we're expecting them.
Yeah. I got to pull the shade. You can keep talking. I'm listening to you.
Yeah. Okay, great. All right. So I want to wrap up on just a couple quick things because I love this. I want to talk about, kind of your identity because you obviously something attracted you to become a firefighter, right? And there's a lot of celebration around that. You started a property management company. You decided, like you said, everyone else is buying, 4x4 trucks, and you're like, I'm gonna buy a duplex in Indianapolis, which makes absolutely no sense to a 27-year-old, but somehow you did it. And so just kind of like, I think that one thing business owners don't think enough about, and I'm channeling my Tony Robbins here, is the power of identity. And it's like people, need to lean into who they think they are, who they want to be. So you've obviously transitioned from, hey, I'm going to be a lifesaver. I'm going to be, in fire and life to I'm going to invest in properties to I'm going to start a property management company. I'm going to build it. Like, does that even resonate with you at all? Because I don't want to ask a leading question, but like, how has your identity changed as you've moved into this?
I don't know. So this I think goes to like what makes you you, like what is the most important thing to you, and coming from the fire service, Rich, where most of the guys have like fire stickers on their trucks. They don't leave their house without some sort of fire insignia on their shirts. And like you talk to them at a party and within 2 seconds that they're firemen, right? Like that is your typical fireman where the identity is the job, the profession. I was never that guy. Like I never put a sticker on my car that said I was a fireman. So maybe that's why I left early, right? Because I didn't technically retire because I'm too young. I just essentially quit, right? Because my identity wasn't wrapped up in it. And my identity also is not wrapped up in my property management company. I mean, that's like a super deep philosophical question you're asking, but like for me, so it's about my family. It's about being a good person. It's about doing the right thing. I came from virtually nothing. Like I didn't have rich parents growing up. We struggled. So I don't know, maybe that made my mind simple. I don't know, but the identity is not in what I'm doing versus the kind of person that I am. So it was interesting about identity. So we have a podcast at the Fire Foundation, which I still work for or volunteer for. And this identity piece is critical for firemen because the second they leave the fire department, i.e. they retire, they lose that identity. And that's when like all kinds of really serious mental health issues come into play and suicide and just crazy stuff. That's so much of it is wrapped up in that identity. And when we bring the like mental health experts on the show, it's all about like not connecting yourself so much to the identity and having outside interests and hobbies and things that are important to you. So I think that identity thing it's interesting. It can backfire on you if like you're so wrapped up in one identity and you think that's who you are, because reality is you are who you are inside. It's nothing like external really makes you, right? You could go get a job as a whatever you want and there's an identity that comes along with that, but that's not really who Jeremy is inside. I don't know.
I appreciate that you recognize the power of that. And it doesn't seem like it has any effect on you, which is why I ask. I remember reading many, many years ago when I was the antithesis of this in my 20s, where, my whole identity was I have this successful business. And this was before it all unraveled in 2008. And And I remember like reading an article from somebody and he said, "Hey, here's my best advice to you to be a better business owner. Have a bunch of great hobbies. Like have a really good life. Like buy motorcycles or, play golf, like whatever it is, like just have a life that's outside your business and you will make better business decisions."
Yeah.
And I couldn't relate to that, but like it's really stuck with me and I see it more and more.
What's funny is this stupid fire department thing keeps following me. Like I actually don't like talking about it because it's a part of my past, but it's not a part of me, right? But it always comes up like, oh, you're the
Yeah.
fireman that started a property management company. And personally, I'm like, yeah, that's me, but like that's not really me. So
Now you're the property management business owner who used to be in fire. Like you just changed the identity, right?
I don't know.
Yeah. No, okay. So it's great. So I do think that's important to reflect on. It doesn't seem to have a hold on you, and you're experiencing how it has a hold on your brothers, in the fire department. So anyway, that I'm glad I brought it up. Doesn't seem like it's a huge part of your story, but I do think that a lot of our business owner companions have a hard time moving into the next phase because they're like, I'm the guy or the girl that does everything. I like this is my identity, and I'm watching your detachment from that, which is why I brought it up. Because you do have a detachment, and I just think more people don't. I think it's one of the reasons why you're just escalating through levels of business ownership that a lot of people don't. So I just wanted to say that.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I haven't really thought of it that way, but
Yeah.
yeah, thank you.
Just an outside perspective, something that I think really is a hold on the human element more than most people think about, their identity. But and it is me too. I'm speaking from, this is
Sure.
not me like judging anybody else, but I'm like most of us, we all think things should be a certain way. We all think we're this person, and so I think it has a huge hold on us. So, all right, let's end it with this, Peter. What's next? You're doing great stuff. I've watched your journey. It's been amazing. You went from one of my smallest clients to one of my most successful clients. Congratulations. Really, really love watching your endeavor here. What's next? What are you gonna do?
Good question. I don't know.
No pressure.
I mean, I'm spinning off these companies. I'm on my third one, so that's like my like fun project. But I also have, you know, teenage girls at home, which one's going off to college this year. So there's light at the end of that tunnel. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
All right, so what are these other companies? You've hinted at them, but we didn't talk about them.
So we have a contracting company that we spun off that was just taking care of our portfolio. Now we're turning it to start facing some third-party clients in the real estate industry, which,
Yep.
by the way, we're using as a referral little thing with other realtors and other
Yeah.
allied real estate people. And then I'm spinning off a company called Quick Turn Cleaning. So we obviously clean the properties that we manage, which is very not sexy at all. But we are facing that one to the short-term rental industry. So we are going to handle all of the boots on the ground here because we have capacity in our contracting company and our cleaning company that I'm trying to fill with basically doing all the boots on the ground for a short-term rental owner, allowing them to fire their management company and literally manage their short-term rental from their phone, just on the software that's already there. So that's a work in progress. I think we have our first client, but it's literally like months old. So
Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. Thanks for sharing that. That was actually really exciting. And these are businesses that honestly we would never start unless we're in the industry like you are, right? So I think that's worth, noticing right there.
well, I mean, as I grow as an entrepreneur, opportunity is everywhere. You just have to see it. And then once you see it, this goes back to having a bias towards action. Once you see it, once you see the opportunity, once you weigh all the pros and cons, and if you're going to do it, just do it. We have an unbelievable advantage because we don't have to get a new customer or have sales or marketing in the beginning because we're literally servicing our own portfolio. You're the business owner and the customer. I don't think people understand what like a gem that is that's just dropped in your lap.
Meaning that because you already have a certain amount of business and need anyway, You're not just going to a bank and you're borrowing money and you're starting a company and you're buying a building and you're doing all these things that people think are associated with the business. You're just basically like, all I need to do is create an entity to serve what I'm already going to spend money on anyway. And that's the best way to start the company.
Yeah. So there's no worry about where's the work going to come from, where are all the negative reviews going to come from. Like you're your own customer, and you're going to be pretty forgiving to yourself in the beginning. So
I love it. Yes. Okay. This is a great point. Totally different article that we may talk about in the future, you know, starting a business to serve your own need, which, you know, that's where enterprises come from, right, Peter? You know, I got the clientele already in place. And I don't think I don't want to gloss over that because I love that. All right. So this has been amazing. I mean, you've been amazing at taking action, which I love. You've been great. You're investing in the best people. I've been around your people. I've had the fortune of working with them. You have great people. You clearly take good care of your clients. I love this conversation we had about I need to do it better than everybody else, but I also need to be able to sell it and market it. I think that is a true mark of maturity when it comes to an entrepreneur. Can't wait to see what the next step is that you guys have for the business. Anything else you'd want to say to yourself, you know, 10 years ago that you wish you knew? Anything else, any mistake you made that you're like, God, I wish I would have done this differently?
oh, I mean, the biggest mistake when I started out was I tried to undercut the market. I tried to charge way less than everybody else, which was a horrible mistake. And it took me years to unwind that. So I would say that's definitely, and that's the most common thing. So I have some people that I, know in the industry and like help, not like in a professional consultant manner, but just people that I've learned, got to know over the years, and people in my area that see what we're doing and go, I want to do this over here in this market. And I kind of will help people with that. And the first thing that comes to mind is I'm just going to charge less than everybody. And I like have to retool them. Like, don't do it. It's a mistake. You're going to regret it. So yeah, that would be one of them, but yeah.
Okay. So yeah, if I can take this outside the industry, this is a lesson for everybody. What is the downside of trying to win by charging less than your competitors?
Well, I mean, the theory is you're going to build market share quickly because you're cheaper than everybody else. And then maybe down the road, you can raise your prices. In our industry, I don't know for like the broader business community, but in our industry, it attracted all the wrong people. It attracted the cheapest people who didn't care about the things that they should care about, who were just looking to save a few pennies, which then made your life completely miserable as the property management company. And we ended up, drastically increasing our prices, getting rid of a lot of those people, and then life got better. So
yes, I know. If it was as simple as charging less than everybody else, everybody would be an entrepreneur and we'd be all making no money. That's what I always like to say. So that's great. So when did you turn that corner? What happened to you where you're like, yeah, this is not the way to build a business?
So I started a business with a partner, which is a whole nother conversation. That the partnership didn't end up working out, and we parted ways probably like 3 years into it, 2 or 3 years into it. And then it was right around that time that I started connecting with the whole NARPM world and learning from people who actually knew what they were doing. And that was when I basically made drastic changes and did a whole bunch of raising prices, figuring out how to build a team, hiring people, those types of things.
So necessarily, it wasn't necessarily because like things weren't working. You just started talking to other people, kind of seeing over
Well, I would say that it probably was contributing to the demise of my partnership too, because we had the worst clients, the worst everything, dealing with problem after problem all day, every day. Probably didn't help the relationship with my partner.
Yes.
Eventually, he was
sure.
like, I'm done with this. I can't do this anymore. And
yeah, you were on an insurmountable hill. You're like, we're going to build a great company and not charge enough, and then you started meeting people that were teaching you that that's not the way it works. And other people have a checkbook they can open up and they can do that. And so I'm sure that exacerbated that change, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Peter, appreciate it. I want to respect your time. We went way over, but this was awesome. Anything else
Yeah,
you
my
want?
pleasure. Happy to chat about it. No, I think we're good. Yeah.
All right.